Level 1. The reluctant kid. You are 11 years old, and you're standing at the back of the pack on the first day of gym class mile run, dreading it in the specific way kids dread things they've already decided they're bad at before trying. You finish near last. Your lungs burn in a way that feels less like exercise and more like punishment. You tell yourself, walking back to the locker room, that running is simply not a thing your body does well, and you believe it completely for the next several years. Something shifts at 14, almost by accident. A friend drags you to a local fun run, mostly for the free t-shirt, and somewhere around the second mile. After the burning stops feeling like punishment and starts feeling like something else you don't quite have a word for yet, you notice you're not actually the slowest person out there anymore. You don't tell anyone this matters to you. You go for a short jog again 3 days later anyway, alone, telling yourself it's just because the shirt was nice. Level 2. The jogger. You are 16, and running has become something you do most mornings before school. Not because anyone assigned it, but because the quiet of an empty street at 6 in the morning has started to feel necessary in a way you can't fully explain to your family. Your first mile time embarrasses you slightly less each month. You buy your first pair of actual running shoes with money saved from a part-time job, and the difference in how your knees feel afterward is almost enough to make you laugh out loud on the sidewalk. You run your first organized 5K at 17, finishing solidly in the middle of the pack, which feels like an accomplishment nobody else quite understands the size of. You start reading about training plans obsessively at night, the way other kids your age research video games, memorizing terms like tempo run and negative split before you've fully mastered either one in practice. Level 3. The competitor. You are 21 and running has stopped being something you do and started being something you organize your entire week around. You join a local running club and discover, with a mixture of humility and excitement, an entire hierarchy of people faster than you that you didn't know existed. Regional competitors, former college athletes, a 60-year-old man who still finishes ahead of you without visibly trying. You run your first half marathon, then your first full marathon. 8 months later, hitting a wall somewhere around mile 20 that nothing in your training fully prepared you for. A specific total body rebellion that has a name runners use like a shared scar. You finish anyway, slower than your goal time, and cry a little in the finisher's chute in a way you don't fully explain to the people waiting for you at the end. Level 4. The serious amateur. You are 26 and you've hired your first coach, a decision that changes the entire texture of your relationship to the sport. Training is no longer instinct and enthusiasm. It is periodization, heart rate zones, recovery, weeks planned as carefully as hard efforts, a level of precision that occasionally makes you miss the simpler days of just running until you felt like stopping. You qualify for the Boston Marathon on your third attempt, missing the cutoff by 4 agonizing minutes on your first 2 tries, in a way that teaches you something specific about disappointment that finishing races never quite had. The morning you finally qualify, you sit down on the curb after crossing the finish line and don't move for several minutes, not from exhaustion exactly, but because you're not entirely sure what to do with a goal you've held for 3 years. Finally, actually arriving. Level 5. The elite amateur. You are 32 and you've become the kind of runner that other serious amateurs quietly ask for advice, your name appearing near the top of age group results at every race you enter. Running has reshaped your entire life around it in ways you didn't fully anticipate at 14. Your job negotiated for flexible hours around training blocks. Your social circle now substantially composed of people who understand why you decline invitations that conflict with a long run. You run a marathon time that qualifies you for elite corrals at major races, standing at start lines, now beside athletes whose careers you followed as a teenager. You do not win these races. You are not trying to win them. You are trying to find out repeatedly exactly where your own ceiling actually is, a question that has stopped having anything to do with anyone else's time. Level 6. The veteran. You are 45 and your relationship with the sport has necessarily changed shape, the way it does for every runner who stays with it long enough to watch their body age in real time. You are slower than your 32-year-old self by a margin that used to bother you and mostly doesn't anymore. You have replaced some of the raw speed work with strength training you resisted for years, having finally accepted that the body which carried you through your 20s needs different maintenance now to keep carrying you at all. You start pacing other runners at races, guiding first-time marathoners toward goal times you could once hit almost carelessly, discovering an entirely different satisfaction in someone else's finish line moment than you ever got purely from your own. You've run enough races now that you recognize the specific look on a first-timer's face at mile 20, the exact expression you wore yourself decades ago, before you knew what your body was actually capable of enduring. Level 7. The Lifer. You are 68 and you still run most mornings. Slower now by a wide margin, but out the door regardless, because the specific quiet of an empty street before sunrise has never stopped feeling necessary, not once, in over 50 years of seeking it out. Your knees have opinions your younger self never had to negotiate with. You listen to them more carefully than you used to listen to anything. You still run the occasional race, not for time anymore, but for the simple continuity of standing at a start line among strangers who are, for one morning, all quietly agreeing to do something difficult together. You watch a nervous 11-year-old finish dead last at a local school fun run one Saturday, dragging his feet toward the finish line, looking thoroughly convinced this sport is not a thing his body does well. You know, with the specific certainty that only 50 years of evidence can produce, that he has no idea yet what's actually waiting for him if he simply goes for one more short jog 3 days from now, telling himself it doesn't matter.